Lyft the other night, and he drives for Uber and Bounce and Lyft, and he had 5 stars. And I'm like, boy, most of the people I've seen lately have been 4.9 stars. And I'm going, well, I wonder what's different about him. So he became successful in his business because we started talking about empathy. And I'm not even sure how we got on the topic, but, being an energy healer, I just, people talk to me. So we started talking about empathy, and he said when he's got strangers getting in his car day in and day out. And so he would just allow himself to feel what kind of music they might like to listen to and just go with it. He trusted himself. And, whether they want to talk or not. And so he allows himself to be open to what makes his customers and his rides comfortable. And so as we're chatting, I share with him what he's doing, and he's like, well, where can I get more information? Of course, I referred to him to you and your book, the Diamond Healing Method. So, it's just, and then when you started talking about this as a topic, I'm like, oh my gosh, I know somebody, this Lyft driver that I had at Uber, Lyft, and he's successful because he's an energy healer, but he doesn't know it.
Hello, everyone. You're listening to Scientific Healing Radio, and I'm your host, Dr. Anastasia Chopelas. I know the power of vibrational healing by combining physics with ancient healing arts to create my own system that has produced medical miracles for thousands of people. To discover how you can develop and strengthen your intuition and empathic abilities for success, go to scientifichealer.com/energize me or connect with me at scientifichealer.com/appointment. This week, you'll hear about how people you meet everywhere in all walks of life are energy healers. They even have the same skill level that I and my fabulous co-host Gwen Lepard have. They are just not aware of how far this can go and how talented they really are. I started noticing a certain set of characteristics that were in common with the most successful business owners I met, and I have met a lot. Today in conversation with me again is my co-host, Gwen Lepard. Welcome to the show, Gwen. I'm so excited to be talking about this topic.
And so am I, Anastasia. I was just mentioning to you the other day on your certification program, on the relationship healing process that we were going through, that I noticed this. I grabbed a Lyft the other night, and he drives for Uber and Bounce and Lyft, and he had 5 stars. And I'm like, boy, most of the people I've seen lately have been 4.9 stars. And I'm going, well, I wonder what's different about him. So he became successful in his business because we started talking about empathy. And I'm not even sure how we got on the topic, but, being an energy healer, I just, people talk to me. So we started talking about empathy, and he said when he's got strangers getting in his car day in and day out. And so he would just allow himself to feel what kind of music they might like to listen to and just go with it. He trusted himself. And, whether they want to talk or not. And so he allows himself to be open to what makes his customers and his rides comfortable. And so as we're chatting, I share with him what he's doing, and he's like, well, where can I get more information? Of course, I referred to him to you and your book, the Diamond Healing Method. So, it's just, and then when you started talking about this as a topic, I'm like, oh my gosh, I know somebody, this Lyft driver that I had at Uber, Lyft, and he's successful because he's an energy healer, but he doesn't know it.
Yes, and there are a lot of people like that. And and it just happened to be that that last week when you were talking about that Lyft driver or Uber driver, that I had interviewed somebody who does physical therapy, which is a very conventional kind of thing to do. And she's a brand new entrepreneur, about 30 years old, and she's very excited about it. She's practicing her physical therapy over the last so many years. She went to school for it and the whole thing. But as she was talking, I realized that she has fallen in love with all of her clients and patients, and she seemed to instinctively know exactly what to do to make them feel better. Because, these modalities, there's a plethora of choices that you can make. And she seemed to know what to say and what to do, and she was just totally in love. So I think that she's also exercising that empathy and using her intuition, and she's way she, when I told her, well, look, I think you've fallen in love with all your patients, and she lit up and she goes, yes, I have. And I told her that it won't be long before her practice is so full because people will be referring her. And I know that the same thing happens when you have a brand new entrepreneur and they start out and they zoom to six figures almost immediately, and everybody wants to know their secret. And what they get is strategy and tactics.
Right, but it's really energy healing, empathy, and intuition that are playing a really large role in those successful business people and healers. So is there a pattern that you see emerging?
Well, I started then, after you said that, I started thinking about a lot of the business owners that I've known over the years. And like one of them I met back, and he impressed me. I met him back in 1983, and he actually started the King's Head in Santa Monica, and it's quite a well-known pub, and now has a restaurant associated with it. And when you go there, it still looks like the original. And I was going there with my ex-husband, and we were on a darts team. And so he had all these darts tournaments at his place, and I was on a darts team with two lawyers, right, two professors, and my ex and I. So there were 4 PhDs, and then there was a guy who repaired and did something with Rolls Royces, because every time I saw him, he had a different beautiful Rolls with him. So he was doing quite well.
And you were all playing darts. I just never imagined you as a dart player, but I bet you were really good at it.
Well, I was a fill-in, and so I started to practice. And we had a wall in one of our rental houses where there were lots of holes where I was practicing to hit the dartboard. But I won 2 trophies. Our team got 2 first places. And so what's funny is, if you go into the King's Head and you look at all the trophies, if you look around 1983, 1984, you'll see my name on 2 of the plaques.
Oh, wow.
But the bottom line with this particular business owner is that he built this up from nothing, and it shot to fame really quickly because of the environment that he provided. And I asked, like, what's going on with him? Like, why is this bar so successful and so many others fail? And they said, well, it's him. When you look at him, he greets you by name. He knows all about your family. He knows what you like to drink. He's like, will sit and listen to you. Like a lot of barkeeps are really therapists in disguise. Yeah. And he became a multimillionaire in a very short amount of time. And he married this very beautiful woman. The guy was kind of plain and dumpy, but he married this very beautiful woman, and he had this big home in Malibu that overlooked the water. And it was like full of tchotchkes, because when you go from nothing to multi-million, you have to fill it. And he'd have parties with us over at his house. And the parties were all really super fun. And because we were his winning dart team, he would just invite this particular dart team over and their families. So it was pretty amazing. But the thing is that what he did was he did the same thing that we're talking about now. He loved all of his customers, didn't matter who they were. He made them feel at ease. He knew exactly what to do to make them feel better. And so if you walked in feeling a little down in the dumps, by the time you had a short conversation and you got your beer in front of you, you had like a whole selection of European beers there. And by the time you had your beer placed in front of you, you were in a really good mood, even before you have your first sip, right?
That's amazing.
Right. And then the environment when we were playing darts, it was all really fun. Like everybody was always having a good time. And you would think, oh, wow, in a bar.
Yeah, instead of all the complaints, he actually used his empathy and intuition, his energy healing abilities that he didn't even know he had, to make people feel good before they even got the alcohol. That, I mean,
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And
Loving
he had a
people.
very loyal customer base. And in fact, it was so loyal that he got the business next door, opened it at, they left and he built a restaurant. So now you can go get your shepherd's pie there, and you can still do that, because a couple of years ago we were there having shepherd's pie, and I took some photos of our plaques and stuff like that. I was there with my ex and my 2 kids and my pregnant daughter-in-law. So we were all there having an English food is kind of meh, but shepherd's pie was really, really popular because it's got potatoes and different meats and veggies in it. So that kind of, so then I started thinking about all the other people, and imagine like now where social media is super duper popular, and it's all done by referral. It's done by it's done by reputation, and people will post on social media, I need to find such and such, who knows of a good one, and then people get referrals that way. And I also belong to a Torrance newsletter. I live in Torrance, and I belong to a Torrance newsletter, and every couple of days there's somebody posting, I need somebody to build my backyard swing set. Do you know anybody? Anybody good and reliable and reasonable. There's always something popping up. Just this morning there was, I need a good manicurist to come to a home because my mom can't go anywhere and she would like to have her nails done. So this is the kind of marketing that's happening now, and the old push marketing, buy this because it's got a whiz bang doohickey, and it does A, B, C, D, E, and you're going, okay, but I don't care about that. Does it do what I want it to do?
Yeah.
And so the old way, the push marketing doesn't work. In fact, it's the other kind, the attractive. So it's interesting that a lot of coaches now that I'm seeing, they are not, I can help you get to whatever level. I can help you get to 1 million or 100,000 or whatever it is that you're looking for, 6 or 7 figures. But it's the ones that are kind and loving and supportive and, have a good reputation for integrity and honesty. They're the ones that are getting the business. And I know several 7-figure entrepreneurs that are just like that.
That's wonderful. And, I know that you've interviewed about 200 people for your radio show. How many of those are really successful ones?
I would say that they're all successful, because it's interesting when I put out I invite people on, like I listen to what they're about, and I have kind of like a sixth sense. I have my own empathy and intuition, and I have the sixth sense, and I invite them to be on my shows. So then
I think that what I was asking is how many of those successful people are using the energy medicine and their empathy?
I would say all of them.
Wow.
And so I'm going to say this one thing is, the interesting thing is that the most successful people respond immediately and get on the show. So that's what's interesting, because they know. And I just had a conversation with someone yesterday who has been on a number of podcasts, and she said, yours is the only one that I've gotten any response from people. And yours is the one that was the most fun, and yours was the one, right? So now more and more people are seeking me out to be on this show, because it's been running for about 5 years.
Yes. Yeah, I know. It's about the time that we met. In fact, I think that I was actually doing my radio show at the time.
Yes.
And I was partially
you were on the same
of introducing you to the
Yeah. So right
at the time.
Right. We were both on the same network. So
yes.
right? And we interviewed each other very early on.
It's true. Yeah. I was just thinking about how, the new style, you're just talking about the new style of entrepreneurs. They get the referrals over and over again. Their clients come back. They're friends with their clients. They have raving fans. So those four traits in common, whatever they do, that's what helps them healing their clients. So do you think people are surprised by that statement, that energy healing is, considered quackery under a lot of people practicing conventional medicine? And
I think that they are surprised. And so, I mean, if you think about it, the people that are in the restaurant and bar business, they need, especially the ones that are involved. Like there was one down here, it's closed now because the owners have decided to close it, but was called Papadakis Taverna, which was a Greek place that had this atmosphere, and the owners were involved in it. And it was so popular, it took months to get a reservation for a party.
Oh, wow.
And so you've got real estate brokers, hairdressers, estheticians, doctors, dentists, coaches, and healers. So now let's talk about those doctors and dentists that talk about this being quackery. The ones that always have a really full practice are the ones that are loving who they're working with, and they're highly intuitive and they can solve the problem quickly. I've been to some doctors and all they do is they just try one medication after another and they don't really look into what's going on. And those are not popular doctors. The really popular ones and the ones that really start to command the much higher prices because their practices get full are the ones that are actually practicing this empathy and intuition and loving, which is the number one factor, because love is very high on the human frequency scale. And when you're at that level, you have this openness and this ability to connect. And what most people don't realize is that this is a skill that you can practice. Both empathy and intuition is a skill that you can practice and develop.
And it can work for whatever it is that you're doing. Just because, you work in a different kind of job doesn't mean you can't be using the principles of energy medicine and healing and love in whatever it is that you do. So I know some people think, well, I can't do that. We all have the ability, and you've been teaching us about that as well.
Yes, exactly. And some of the people in the class, what's kind of interesting is that they are veteran healers. They've attended many, many classes. And one woman said, I think it was not in the class that you're in, but one woman said to me, this is the first class of all the classes that she's ever taken that has focused on your self-care and your self-development.
Right.
And this to her was invaluable because everybody talks about how you heal other people, but they don't talk about how you take care of yourself. Because when you don't fill up your own tank, you can't fill up anybody else's tank with anything. Yeah. And I think that that's something that a lot of really successful entrepreneurs right now are practicing, is that they have a morning ritual that they go through that gets them set for the day. I just downloaded a little PDF from somebody that was saying exactly that. And I invited her onto the show because, she had codified it in a really simple way. But I think this is one of the strongest and most important things for you to do, no matter who you are, is to start your day. And entrepreneurs, it's especially bad because your day is completely up to you. There's no boss telling you it's time to work at 8:00. It's time to take lunch at noon. It's time to go home at 5. No one is there telling you that. You have like a day that's completely unstructured. So it's really important to
start with self-care. Start with self-care. Yep.
Start with self-care, and then everything else falls into place.
Yeah, and calendar it. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur and you don't have it on your calendar, things will happen that'll pull you away from it. So you've got to calendar it.
Yes. Definitely. I use my calendar heavily, and I'm sure you do too.
Yes, I finally learned that skill. So I know you're talking about the physicians. Can we go back to, what is it that makes a great physician that is using energy healing? What makes it easy?
Well, what makes it easy is that people have some basic needs. They want to feel heard. And when the person is really listening to them, because I've had doctors that just sort of take one look at me and they're taking my temperature and, oh, you need some aspirin.
Right.
Well, right. What if it's an infection and I need an antibiotic? So they're the ones that take the time to listen to what the person is saying, because most people have a pretty good idea of how their body is supposed to function. And if it's not doing that, then they're going, okay, something's wrong. So listening, and then thinking, putting themselves in that other person's shoes, which is empathy. And I don't want it to be the kind of empathy where you sink to their level. What you wanted is because a lot of people, they try to get you to agree with them. Like they'll say, oh, isn't it terrible that my ex-husband said that to me? And then you start agreeing and you start sinking to their level. You don't want that kind of empathy. What the kind of empathy that you want is to engage your intuition so you can help them better. And so those are the ones that do that. And then the last thing is the ones that really care about the outcome. Like I've been to doctors who, after a little bit of back and forth, gave me something that made me feel better. And when I told him that I felt way better, he was like dancing with joy. I'm so glad we could help you. And he really lit up. And so I felt really cared for by that physician.
Right. And so as I'm hearing you talking about this, listening to what somebody's saying, that, respecting that maybe they know their self, and, being happy when they have success. It's something that not just physicians can use, but really any of us in whatever we're doing. And that's energy healing, right?
Well, having the empathy is the first step.
Okay.
And the next step is using the intuition to figure out what that person needs to improve, whether it's to improve their business, to improve their copywriting, to improve, client or customer relations, whatever it is. And, relationship, you've heard me say this many times, relationship is the number one factor in your health, your happiness, and your wealth. It absolutely is. And this is really about relationship healing. And so when people come in feeling all mopey, like I'll engage somebody who's like very worried about whatever it is they've got. And, I'll tell them, here are the ways that we can handle it. And I'll do a reading on them. And then I tell them, well, I see this, this, and this. Does that sound right to you? And they'll usually agree. Or some of them will even say, how do you know that? I didn't even tell you that. Right?
Yeah, you make it sound so easy because people like to complicate it. They've got their reasons, their motivations, their rationalizations, the cause, the effect, all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And it's not as complicated as you might think. Right? And the people that are this, empathic, intuitive, and loving their clients, they can see the dark spots, the places where they're not fulfilled, and they can help them. Of course, they can't do the same kind of deep healing that a healer will do, really get to the root of the problem, but it's still healing nonetheless. Right. And when you go to a doctor or physical therapist or an acupuncturist and they're really caring for you, so half the time it's your own subconscious that responds to it and allows you to get well from it.
Fantastic. I'm noticing that there's energy healing all around us. And I mean, you just mentioned acupuncture. There's a lot of other forms of healing, homeopathic, exercise, massage. Can you elaborate on that a little?
Right. So anytime that you're moving energy in the body, so acupuncture, what it does is it stimulates points where nerve endings come together, and it helps the flow go across not just the nerves, but it go down, up and down the meridians. And the meridians, for people that don't realize it, is that there's been a number of scientific experiments that show that the energy flow on the skin is much higher where the meridians appear in the body, and there's 12 of them, than to the side of them. So there is, even though there's not a physical structure, that's been the objection for many years, that there's no physical structure that corresponds to them. There is an energy flow, and it goes from collection of nerve endings and receptors to collections, and they travel along certain lines in the body. And you can tell where they are, especially where the acupuncture points are, is that they're a little more sensitive on the skin. So you can, I always just say take 2 points and put them really close together, and you can feel the separateness of 2 points on your finger like this. But if you take those same 2 points and put them somewhere else on your skin, it feels like one. And that means that the nerve endings are far apart in that place. And so you can kind of find them where these acupuncture points are, because they're a little bit more sensitive. And so the acupuncture will start to stimulate those nerve endings and allow the flow of energy across them. And when that happens, you're moving energy, you're opening it up. And what happens a lot of times, and I mentioned this too when I had acupuncture the first time, it was about 25 years ago. I mentioned to the acupuncturist that I was reliving or re-seeing memories that I hadn't thought about, and really since they had occurred. So what that does is that memory is holding that energy in that place hostage, and that we have memories that appear in all of our cells. And so what that does is it helps you relive the memory. Then you can process it as an adult rather than a child, because that one particular memory was my 5th birthday, I think.
Oh my gosh.
You can reprocess it as an adult rather than a child. And now that memory has been released from that place, and it allows the energy flow to happen. So that's one. And massage will do the same thing, because when you feel tension in your back and things like that, getting a masseuse to stimulate everything to get the blood flowing and the nerve endings nerve endings stimulated, can also do exactly the same thing. And then there's homeopathy. So homeopathy has been objected that there's not enough molecules in the solution, and it's true, there's not enough molecules in the solution to do anything as a medication.
But there is enough energy.
Yes. And the more dilute the solution, so this is kind of like a paradox, the more dilute the solution, the more powerful it is. And
amazing.
Right. And a lot of homeopathy, I had a raging sinus infection, and I went to somebody, my doctor who practiced homeopathy, and she gave me a couple of things that I had to drop in my mouth every 15 minutes. And in 2 hours, the fever was gone, the pain was gone, and everything felt normal again. And an antibiotic would take 2 days for me to feel normal again, and I would have to help replenish all of the good bacteria in the microbiome, right?
Yeah. Long-term effects of antibiotics. We don't even want to go there right now. But let's go to walking in the waves barefoot, eating organic produce.
Yes. So those are some of the other things, like when you are walking around in the dirt and in the sand, barefoot, especially if there's water, it grounds you. It helps recenter you, brings you into that present moment.
Yeah, grass is good too.
Grass is good too.
On lawns. And so
right.
It doesn't have to be directly on dirt.
No, but right. Grass is also good. And a deep breathing, that's another way. You're moving energy as you're breathing all the way down into your body, and you're imagining the air flowing to every nook and cranny, to every cell in your body. That's another way to move energy and to help heal you. And some people have gotten healed just from breathing exercises.
It's a powerful, powerful way of healing. And in fact, I think it is probably the most powerful tool that we have as humans for transformation is conscious breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And then
also
you combine that with, yeah, go ahead.
With meditation and acupuncture and massage and grounding yourself. All of those things can add up. And so every little thing that we do is completely additive. And the thing is that it's harder to remember to do those things than it is to actually do them, because actually doing them takes just a few minutes a day. And what it returns for you in the time investment is like at least a 10 times ROI, right? You put a minute in, you get 10 out.
Yeah. And the connection. I mean, connection is so important. That's the relationship. So hugging somebody, energy medicine, energy healing, it's everywhere.
You're listening to Scientific Healing with Dr. Anastasia Chopelas. We'll return right after a short break. You can actually do simple physical manipulations on yourself to change your mental, emotional state, release blocks, and even release things like pain in your body. And of course, the backup to all of these techniques, the backup is to work out also the spiritual, the emotional, the mental, and then relieve the physical. I have a process that does that. We go through one step at a time and clean up all of, so whatever condition that you have, whether it's mental, emotional, spiritual, or physical, whatever condition that you have, especially if it manifested in the physical, was usually years in the making. You didn't get it overnight, years in the making. One of the ways that I work is I find out when something got manifested in your body, like go back to that year and then rewrite the story, uncreate the story, redo the story. So it's as if it never happened. It's as if you imagine your life as a tree and here you are at birth, and each decision that you make will create a different branch, right? So you have all these branches of possibilities and you're ending up somewhere along the branch. And by doing energy work, it's as if you did not make that decision and instead you made a different decision and you end up on another branch. So that's the way I view energy healing with regards to whatever your life is now. And the great thing is that we are infinite beings of light, powerful beings of light, and we can change our history and we can rewrite things and we can create whatever life we want. And I'm ready to have a conversation with you if that's what you'd like to have in your life. Either learn it for yourself or to have me help you with it. So I have my contact information is scientifichealer.com/contact or scientifichealer.com/appointment. So you can either write me or have a conversation with me, and I always answer whatever queries come through. And I do it personally because I'm very interested in hearing what you would like to hear. Welcome back. This is Dr. Anastasia Chopelas on Scientific Healing Radio. Let's dive deeper into our conversation.
The other thing that people do when they're helping people as entrepreneurs or business owners, that the helping the person is more important than the monetary return. Although we're all in business to make money, right?
Absolutely.
But we have to put food on our table and the roof over our head, and we can't run around naked, although it's kind of fun.
Especially in Southern California.
Exactly. But nothing turns people off more than if you're thinking,
how can I make money off this person?
Right. Oh boy, I'm getting a call. I hope I sign them up because I really need the money.
Exactly.
Right.
That energetically is pushing people away instead of, how can I help this
spraying
person?
repellent all over you. It's like people repellent.
Yes. Client repellent. Think, how can I make the money? How can I find this person instead of
I just heard this the other day. I gave somebody a glowing review on Yelp, hoping that it would help them get more clients. And I got the response, rather than thank you for the review, I got, thank you, I really need the money. And it's like, I almost regretted doing the review because that's how that particular person thinks. And,
Right.
a thank you would have sufficed. And I felt slimed, and I felt like I needed a shower after that.
Oh, no. Yeah. And when you're in that desperation and that lack, it definitely, you get more desperation and lack. And so if instead you're doing things that raise your spirits, get us to smile, we're
Yeah.
happier, we're calmer. That's where the healing and soothing, and that's how you can actually help your clients, whether it's an entrepreneur, as you said, doctors, an Uber driver,
And if you were in that location where you hired him, you would go again for that particular person because of how good.
Yeah, if I could get him again, that would be really awesome. It seems so rare in the industry that you get the same driver more than once.
Well, and then the least pushy people, they're the ones that just are there to help you. And then when they make you an offer, would you like to continue working with me, which is, a very clean, simple offer. Most of the people will say yes. And then you try to figure out how to make it work. But the thing is that you are, when I often get people like, they'll go, I just can't get past the fact that you're working on the phone and it's going to help me.
Oh, it certainly does. Oh my God. Like I said, I've known you for 5 years, and you've seen my life transform, and some of the most beneficial pieces have been listening to your audios, getting on the phone with you, and having a quick clearing when something that I have the tools to do myself, but for some reason I'm stuck, and you help me get past that. You can just clear it because you don't have the attachment that I do around it.
Yeah, exactly. So people will just go, I just can't get past it, even though I have like a lot of testimonials, and I have a lot of them that I haven't even published, and I can't keep up with them, but I have all these testimonials and people that, they hire me for 2 or 3 sessions, and they go, I thought I was a good healer. I didn't know that you could do that. Like, I didn't know I could feel this good again. So then they want to continue or learn what I'm teaching. And, can you teach me to do what you just did? And the answer, of course, is yes, because you all have the equipment to do it. And this is not just for healers, it's coaches, other business owners. I have a separate program for business owners because a lot of business owners don't want to learn it. So what I do is I do the heavy lifting, and you just have to do some of the exercises, like a little deep breathing, maybe listening to an audio, and progress gets made very, very quickly. And so, yes. Right. I've literally myself spent thousands of dollars on programs that I'm glad that my term with them was over and I don't associate with them anymore. And I would never recommend them to anybody. And, and so some of that was my being a little naive and looking at what some of the other people were saying about him. But there's one guy I'm thinking of in particular, but when I started talking to him, he completely didn't get me, and he wanted to put me in a white lab coat and say I'm the scientist who brings all of this great information to the masses, kind of thing. And I'm going, well, it's part way there, but I've never worn a lab coat, so it doesn't feel authentic, right?
Yeah, and authenticity is so important. I know that we're getting tight on time. Do you want to go over the 4 keys to becoming a successful entrepreneur and business owner as we talked about them?
Right. So the 4 keys, the first step is to have empathy with who you're going to help. Yeah. The second step, so we're just summarizing what we've talked about. The second step is that your willingness to help them is more important than what you would gain from them monetarily. Yes. And I have used that and brought my business to 6 figures in a very short amount of time. And I never pressured, like all these people are telling me, oh, you need to learn how to do sales calls. And I go, well, I've never really had a sales call because I'll just talk to somebody for a few minutes and they go, I need to hire you. So that, so this
because you get them because you're using your empathy.
right? Empathy and intuition. What it is that they need to feel good with right away. And I love them, right? I love all of my clients. I love all of my students. And I just feel like I want the best for them. Like I want them to be successful in whatever it is that they do. You know, if they've got a kidney problem, I want them to be well, you know, and I don't know where that comes from. It's just that that's what I really want. Yeah. And I know that my own family, we've had a lot of illness, and my mom had a condition for 45 years before she passed away. And I know how much people suffer from it. And, you know, the whole family suffers. So I'm really pro family. I love my family. And that to me is really, really important. So, of course, people can connect with me on talking about programs by going to scientifichealer.com/appointment. And, or if you just want to write a note and make some inquiries, you go to scientifichealer.com/contact. And the 2 programs that I have available are described in some detail, not a whole lot of detail, but it gives you an idea for people that don't want to do the heavy lifting. And these are customizable programs. That's at the science. It's at www.scienceofaccelerated-success.com. And the other one is at scientifichealer.com/energize-me. And that's for the program for you to learn how to do these yourself. And in both cases, your empathy and your intuition, you'll learn how to practice with them, and they will grow and develop. And that will help you become a better, you know, a better entrepreneur, a better person that serves others, and so on. And I just want to say, one of the clients in my certification program, she told me, I don't have a lick of psychic power. I just can't do any of this. And within 2 months, she was looking at people's colors, shifting their energy, really changing them, and healing people almost immediately. And she's like totally bowled over, you know, and she's about 70 years old and has used to be a technical writer turned homeopath. So she had no clue that she had all of that ability. But of course, if she's a homeopath, she wants people to feel good. So she already had the intuition and the empathy and the caring for her clients. And now this just blossomed into something so much bigger. So, fantastic. Right. And this is commonplace when people work with me, right? It's commonplace. Yeah. It's like the average, not the atypical. It's the typical. These are typical results, not unusual results. So thank you, Gwen, for accompanying me on this little exploration of how so many more people are energy healers than believed.
Yes, absolutely. It's always a pleasure, Anastasia.
Yes. Thank you for listening to Scientific Healing, and for our wonderful guest host, Gwen Lepard. Let's you and I connect. Go to scientifichealer.com/energize-me, which is for those who are ready to get to a new place in your life, whether it's to help others or get better yourself. Or connect with me at scientifichealer.com/appointment to speak to me. If you enjoyed this program, give it a 5-star rating on iTunes, share it with your friends, and be sure to subscribe to my channel. This is Dr. Anastasia Chopelas. Until next time.